Do you need work experience for a degree apprenticeship? This is a question I get asked a lot, and these days companies seem to say no, you don't need work experience. However, in this video I'm going to give you the truth. I'm going to give you the proper answer to this, whether you need work experience or not. By the way, if you haven't seen this channel before, last year I got 8 degree apprenticeship offers, and so far this year I've been helping dozens of people get degree apprenticeship offers from companies like Amazon, HSBC, JLR and KPMG. So here's the answer. Yes, you do need work experience for a degree apprenticeship, okay? There's 5 reasons why you need work experience. I'm going to go through those 5 reasons. But not only that, I'm going to actually give you actionable steps you can do to leverage these 5 reasons to increase your chance in the application process and increase your chances of getting an offer from these companies such as Amazon, HSBC, JLR, KPMG, PwC, whatever companies you're interested in getting that degree apprenticeship in. Work experience is really going to help you. Let me explain why, and let me explain how you can leverage these throughout the application process. Okay, so for the first one, let me tell you a quick story. So it was a Saturday, a couple of months ago now, and I was at like a sporting event. I was in like the spectator seat sitting on one of these rows, and in front of me, there was a woman there with a laptop on her lap, and she was doing some stuff. And out of curiosity, just glanced at the screen, see what was going on. Turns out she was actually a recruiter, so she worked for HR, Human Resources, and she was going through people's CVs. Right, and this company, I'm not going to name the company now, but I could see who she worked for, and this company does apprenticeships, right? She was going through CVs, seemed like some sort of early careers. I wasn't sure if in this case it was apprenticeships or graduates, but she was going through CVs. Do you know how long she was spending on each CV? Do you know how long she was looking at it for? It wasn't long, it was about 10 seconds. So she'd open it up, quickly have a look at the first page, scroll through, check it, then click approve or click reject at the top right. And then she goes to the next one, roughly 10 seconds, just scan it through, looking for some key things, approve or reject. It wasn't a case of spending 5 minutes on each one, reading through every single word, underlining the keywords, highlighting it, all that sort of thing, and then coming to a conclusion. It was literally in 10 seconds. The data supports this as well. Recruiters do not look at CVs or cover letters for very long at all. They just scan it for the key details. This brings me to reason 1 why work experience is important, is because you're going to get a company name on your CV. Okay, so all they have to do is just scan it, and if you've got on there somewhere PwC work experience, straight away you're going to get through to the next stage. If the recruiter is going through and you've got JLR work experience, straight away you're going through to the next stage. They don't even need to like read the description about what you actually did. Straight away, just the name will get you it. Compare that to someone who hasn't done any work experience, right? They sort of don't have an endorsement from any company. They just have a CV saying they've done whatever, and it's like, okay. When you put on your thing that you did HSBC work experience, I did Deutsche Bank work experience, it's sort of like you've been endorsed by Deutsche Bank. It's like you've been endorsed by HSBC, right? Because you have that experience from those companies, you know how things operate, right? So just having that name on your CV, that is the first benefit of doing this work experience, because it means straight away it's a tick box and it's going to get you through to the next stage of the application process. So here's the actionable step for this one. When you go to your CV and when you write down what work experience you did, always mention the company. Okay, and now it's obvious if you're getting work experience from a big company like PwC or Amazon or something like that, Rolls-Royce, Airbus, of course, put down the company name, fantastic. But even if it's not a big company, still put down the company name, okay? So maybe you got work experience at some like local legal company, right? Or some like small manufacturing company, or like there was this factory in your town which you like spent a week at going through the production lines, learning how things work, right? And it might be some like tiny company, they only have 1 location in the UK, or like they have like 2 locations. Still put down the company name. That name's going to give you credibility just from seeing it, even if they don't know what it is, just seeing those capital letters there for whatever the company is, credibility. So actionable step there is whatever work experience you have, whether it's a big company or a tiny company or anything at all, make sure in your CV you name drop which company it is. Okay, so that was just a small one. Now we're going to get onto the real like meat of these, why work experience is so important. So this first reason is to do with knowledge, okay? You are going to learn so much knowledge from doing a work experience, and it's going to come in useful throughout the application process. So let me give you an example. I did a civil engineering work experience. I didn't know anything about civil engineering before I did it, and that was where I was on site looking at bridges, looking at roads, and I was learning so much stuff about like abutments, about blackjacking, about camber, all these words probably you don't even know what they mean. I didn't know what they meant, but then when I went and did this work experience, I learned so much about how roads are constructed, how bridges are constructed, how like the temporary works, like how that works, right? That came in so useful during the application process when I was applying to these civil engineering degree apprenticeships, because the first time it's useful is going to be in the initial application. Sometimes in the initial application, on top of a CV, on top of a cover letter, they can just do general application questions. And sometimes these questions can be, what do you know about the industry? Or what do you know about the field? Straight away, you can use that relevant work experience. Maybe you learned this specific thing about how this industry works, right? During the interview, they can ask that same question. So basically, instead of writing it in the application, they ask you to speak it during the interview. What do you know about this industry? Or what do you know about this field? Right? If you've actually got work experience with the company you're applying to, what do you know about the company? You'll have learned extra stuff from your work experience that no one else will have had access to. You're going to have such good knowledge. And then the last part of it is in the assessment centre. One of the assessment centre, by the way, is the final stage of a degree apprenticeship application process. They have presentations, right? And that means basically 2 weeks before the assessment centre, they're going to send you like a brief saying, we want you to make a 10-minute presentation on XYZ, do it. Sometimes that presentation is tell us something you know about the industry or talk about a technical topic or whatever. You've got that information that you've got from that work experience, which no one else will have, which you can put in there. So I'll give you an example in the civil engineering one. I did this work experience, learned this loads of stuff. In the assessment centres, the presentation was, how would you design a sustainable bridge here? When I was in the assessment centre, I was actually like, this was an in-person one. I was talking to people in like the lobby beforehand. They did not have a clue. They didn't know anything specific. They started like Googling random things, how to make a bridge. I didn't even have to Google anything because I'd learned so much from my work experience. I had all that knowledge. I was like, okay, so first of all, you start with the foundations. Then we look at this. Then we do a geotechnical survey. Then we're going to do the abutments. Then we're going to do the bridge deck. We're going to do the bridge deck pour. But when you're doing the concrete pour, you need to do this. You need to do weathering steel. I knew so much. I didn't even have to Google it. That shone in the presentation, and it meant I got the offer because I had that specific knowledge from that work experience. Okay, so your actionable step for this one is when you do have a work experience placement, whether that be like a 1-week placement, a 2-week placement, every single day, when you come home, take notes on everything you learn. Okay, every like technical detail you learn, every process you learn, every like definition for a word you never heard of, write it all down. It doesn't have to be like hours on it. It can be like literally what I would do 20 minutes when I got home after my work experience placement was write down all the knowledge I knew. Okay, that is your actionable step for when you have a work experience. Do that because it means when it comes to applying, you remember that knowledge. You can put that knowledge in the application questions. You can have that knowledge ready for the interview. And if they ask a presentation to you to make a presentation on something technical or something about the industry, you can refer back to these notes and you can use them to have a really detailed, really knowledgeable presentation that will stand out from everyone else who's just Googled some random things on Wikipedia. Okay, this next one, not many people think of is relevant to work experience. I think they think of that first one, you're going to learn some things, right? But this one's super important as well, and that is skills, okay? The skills you're going to learn from a work experience are going to be super useful for when you come to apply to the job, right? Because in this work experience, you might have had to do some teamwork activity. Straight away, that's teamworking skills, communication skills, interpersonal skills, right? Or maybe there was some task you got assigned which required time management skills. It required dedication to make sure you finish that task. Or like you had a certain task which required attention to detail because you had to like look at these things and analyze them closely. Or maybe you had to lead a project that gave you leadership skills. On one of my work experience, I had to lead like an audit of all the temporary works around the construction site. I did that and then I used that in my applications as leadership skills. Okay, so that's another really important one about work experience. You're going to learn so many skills. You're going to develop so many skills from these work experience. Even just, you wouldn't believe how many like skills you can develop just in a 1-week placement or just in a 2-week placement. There's so many you can gain, okay? So the actionable step for this one's very important. This is probably actually one of the most important tips for apprenticeship applications in like general. In a job description, 99% of the time, they're going to have required skills, okay? They're going to have a list of the required skills and it'll be different for each company and each role and that sort of thing. But in general, they're going to have required skills. It's going to include things like leadership skills, communication skills, attention to detail skills, time management skills, right? Problem solving skills, creativity, right? Like growth mindset, all these sort of skills things. Actionable step when you are applying and writing down this work experience, get in every single required skill from the job description. This is like one of the cheat codes for automatically getting to the next stage of a degree apprenticeship, like getting through the first stage. Copy off every single skill from the required skills thing. So say you have your work experience and like you have that written out on your CV, you say, I did this work experience, like you've got that first sentence. You then need to write like 3 or 4 lines on your CV, maybe 5, like explaining what you actually did and like what skills it developed. Literally take the required skills, just copy paste. That's how you do it. And then why wouldn't they want to hire you? Because they're asking for these skills and you've shown that you have every single one. Compared to someone who's got like 2 of them, or like they have half of them. You have every single one because you checked it off when you were writing your CV. Okay? Now let's move on to the next one. This is very similar to this, and this is actually in even more depth. This one's probably even better. As well as required skills in the job description, they're also going to have responsibilities in the job description. That's basically saying, what are you going to be responsible for once you start this apprenticeship? Okay, let me give an example of how you can make this work. In my civil engineering work experience on site, going back to that, some of the things I had to do were CAD. So like doing some CAD, computer aided design, if you don't know what that means. It's like designing things on a computer rather than like with pen and paper on a hand or something. Shadowing engineers, and I had to like lead like a project, as I said, doing an audit of the temporary works on site. When I come to apply, I have a look at, there's this like one particular civil engineering job that I was applying for, have a look down the responsibilities. Here's what some of the responsibilities were. As an apprentice, you'll be doing CAD. You'll be shadowing senior engineers. You'll be leading projects, right? It's the exact same as the skills I've just said before. You go from these responsibilities and you basically use the exact same ones from your work experience. Okay, because that's the benefit of work experience. And if you do work experience in the same sector that you want to go into an apprenticeship in, you're going to have already done the things you need to do. Okay, and think about it. If a company has to like recruit some random person who's just come out of school, like just come out of year 13 or just come out of a gap year, do they want someone who's never done anything to do with anything, or someone who's like kind of done the jobs before? Like I know it's only 1 week or 2 week on a work experience, but it's like I've looked at CAD before, I'd shadowed other engineers before, I'd like led this project before. They're going to be more likely to hire me because basically I've already done the responsibilities during my work experience that I'm going to need to do during my apprenticeship. I have prior experience of the stuff you have to do during an apprenticeship. It makes them want to hire you. So the actual step is, when you get the job description, have a look through those responsibilities and be like, which of these have I actually already done? And if you've already done them, make sure you explicitly say that. If in the job description, like the responsibilities said, you'll be responsible for like using Microsoft Excel, make sure somewhere, like maybe there's a work experience or something you've done, you say, during this work experience, I had to use Excel. Because it shows you've already done it. Or maybe another one is here, you had to like communicate with like other members of the team. Or maybe you had this other work experience where you also had to communicate. So specifically say, I had to communicate with other members of the team when you're writing about that work experience. Right? This is genuinely, I don't know why more people don't talk about this. This is the cheat code to getting a degree apprenticeship. And like, it's really easy to access through work experience, which is why I'm explaining it in this video. But it's basically just the required skills from the job description, mention every single one of them in your CV, and then all the responsibilities, mention every single one in your CV, and where you'll have got those responsibilities from is you'll have already done them in your work experience. That's one of the massive benefits of work experience and why you definitely want to be doing that. Okay, now moving on to the final one, and this is a very important one. So over the past couple of months, I've been giving people mock interviews, and there's one problem that I've found is consistent over a lot of people. So chances are, this is probably like this would if you did your interview right now, this would probably happen to you as well. Okay, so listen to this one. During an interview, there are certain types of questions they're going to ask which are very common. They're called STAR questions. Basically means situation, task, action, result, right? And the phrasing of the question is, tell me about a time when you did something, you X, Y, Z, right? So tell me about a time you worked as a team. Tell me about a time you worked as a leader. Tell me about a time you solved a problem. Have a think of these questions right now. Can you come up with an answer straight away? Tell me about a time you had to have a difficult conversation. They're going to ask you that, and then you go through, you say, okay, this was a situation, this was the task, this was the action I took, and this was the result, based to answer the question. That's why it's called a STAR question. When I'm doing mock interviews, I've been found people don't have scenarios. Okay, people just don't have anything to say. Like I'll say, tell me about a time you worked as a team, and they're like, well, I have no idea. Like, I've had this as I've been doing mock interviews. I say, tell me about a time when like you saw someone doing something unsafe. People have no idea. Right? Tell me about a time you solved a problem. No one's got a solution. Right? This is where work experience comes in. Work experience is going to give you so many good scenarios for these questions. Like these questions are genuinely like half of degree apprenticeship interviews. Like half the questions are STAR-based questions like this. Tell me about a time. Work experience, you're going to get so many. There's about six common STAR-based questions, right? 3 of mine were from like this construction site, civil engineering work experience I'd done. For example, tell me about a time you led something, right? Or tell me about a time when you saw someone doing something unsafe. Tell me about a time when you had a difficult conversation, whatever. And then I actually had like another work experience I did, and that was where another of my STAR questions was from. So I basically had, out of like the 6 common STAR questions, I had 4 scenarios just from work experience. That's how useful it is. If I didn't have work experience, I'd have had to come up with something else. Like, sure, I would have been able to do something, for example, leading. I could have done D&V, or I could have done this, or I could have done this, right? I would have found other situations. But you're going to get these scenarios from work experience. Chances are, if you tried to think of some scenarios right now, you probably wouldn't be able to. Again, that's just from my experience when I've been like talking and giving mock interviews. In general, on average, people don't have these scenarios in real life. Okay, which is why work experience is going to come in super value, and it means you're going to have unique scenarios that no one else has, which means you're going to be able to answer those questions well and pass your interview and get your degree apprenticeship offer from whatever company that is, whether that be Amazon or Rolls-Royce or KPMG or JP Morgan or whatever. So now that I've explained why you need work experience, I hope you're properly convinced. Now, if you don't believe me, then you're never going to believe me, but if you're convinced now that you need work experience and that's something that you're looking for, and you want to do that so that you're ready to do as well you can in these degree apprenticeship applications, then what you can do is check out the next video. So the next video I'm going to make is the best type of work experience to do. So it's going to set you on the right track, and you can work out exactly what work experience you should do in order to achieve your goals of a degree apprenticeship offer. You can click that video right here, or if it's not out, you can subscribe to the channel. Just wait a couple of days, it'll be out soon. Thanks for watching this video. Have an amazing rest of your day.